Welcome back to Streamline Entertainment. It is Marvyn speaking. I'm with Ali today, and we're going to be talking about missing Jack O'Sullivan. Ali, do you want to say a quick hello?
Oh, hi everybody. Hope you're all well today and keeping safe in this turmoiling world we're living in at the moment. But hope you're all okay anyway.
Thank you very much for that. So, Jack O'Sullivan, who was 22 at the time of his disappearance, was last seen in the early hours of the 2nd of March 2024 after attending a house party in the Hotwells area of Bristol. 1 year on, his family said his disappearance remains a complete mystery. And that was a basically an article from the 2nd of March 2025. And it's such a shame because, like I said, I was just saying to Ali earlier that it seems a bit of a dead end at the moment, which is very, very worrying. It then goes on to say, where was the last known location of Jack O'Sullivan? I'm only giving you streamliners and public a sort of basic sort of rundown of Jack missing. The last likely sighting of Jack was at 3:30 a.m. in the morning, walking along Bennett Way Slip Road, heading in the direction of Bristol city centre. He had earlier been spotted on CCTV walking around the Cumberland Basin and below the Plimsoll Swing Bridge. And so that is a little bit of the information, but obviously a few things have changed and more information have come in. And Ali, what have you got for us, basically? Because obviously it's a case which has baffled us both.
Yeah, it is. And welcome to new streamliners that aren't familiar with Jack O'Sullivan case. He's a Bristol boy.
Yeah.
Um, his brother Ben is Bristol, obviously, lives in Bristol, and his mum and dad live in a place called Flex Burton,
Yeah.
which is about 5 miles to 9 miles as the crow flies from Bristol in the Somerset countryside.
Hmm.
So he just actually qualified as a lawyer, and he was doing a few little add-ons to that. They'd been to Weatherspoons in the city centre for a celebration, him and some mates that had just qualified. And then he got invited to a party elsewhere and in Hotwells. And we know where that is. It isn't far from where he actually had his digs. And I'll leave you to carry on, Marvyn.
Can I just ask you one question? Do you know the two friends he was at Witherspoon with? Was it one of them that went to the party with him, or was it
No,
the two?
there was quite a few of them, I believe. I think it was half a dozen of them. But apparently it was two people that he went to the after party with. And
Right.
he'd spoken to his mother and said, shall I go? And she said, well, yeah, if you got some new friends, I'd make the most of it because you're starting to actually do some proper work shortly. So, go and enjoy yourself. That was what she said to him.
I mean, what his mum has said about him, it just seems a very sort of conscious, young man who knows what he wants out of life. At the end of the day, if he's going, if he's going to go into the legal sector in life and be a lawyer or something along those lines, he had a good life ahead of himself and he seemed happy, a good bunch of friends. And why wouldn't, if he just basically wanted to go and start his own life, why wouldn't he at least say something to his brother who he was very close with, or another family member, or even a friend? It just doesn't make sense. I don't believe that he would hurt his family like that. I just don't think so.
No, a very close family. Catherine, his mum, is actually from Wales.
Okay.
And I don't know where his dad Alan actually comes from. He could actually come from Somerset area or Bristol. And the two lads, no, very close. They all kept in touch. In fact, the night before I believe he showed his mum he'd got his new Apple tag that he attached to his mobile
Yeah.
and showed her how it worked. And she was quite taken with that. So, no, I think they were very close family, really. And of course, it's my area, so, I know Bristol very well.
Yeah. So, Ali, so what can you sort of tell us about that maybe that's been sort of missed out in this case, what we were talking about earlier, in like the area near the party and, where Jack was? Because, like I said, I don't think the police, Ali, had done as much searching as what they should, as what we thought, or what they should have done. Would I be right in saying that?
Yeah, I mean, Catherine, I take my hat off to her and the whole family. They've been fantastic in getting every single detail put up on Facebook and various other different social media. And they formed a group so that they could give out, leaflets and various things. Everything that Jack was wearing and had with him, they replicated and put it and photographed it all and put it up there.
I did
Put
see
up a
that. Yeah, I did see it online, and
yeah, yeah,
quite a few
yeah,
TikTokers put it up as well, and YouTubers.
yeah. And that, I mean, we've got a fairly good timeline considering because Catherine has been absolute doing sterling work in keeping this thing going. And she's been right out there, but I think she's exhausted herself now. I haven't spoken to her recently. I did send her a card a couple of weeks ago, but I haven't heard anything.
It's
Um, but
it is quite worrying because, like I said, we did hear something about that the Facebook group was going on hold or something, and then, but like I said, and then I think you said that the Facebook group is no longer there at the moment. Maybe
no,
they've
it
just,
isn't.
which is quite bizarre. I'm just wondering because of sometimes the sort of false, what young people sometimes can be like, or some people malicious gossip and stuff like that. Maybe she just got fed up of it and just needed some time out.
Well, I think there's more to the Facebook group than meets the eye,
I
to be
agree.
honest with you.
Yeah.
I've picked up 4 names that I'm looking at, and I've been in touch with 2 of them, two, two others actually. Uh, it's no secret who they are, because I did the data for them on the pings on the phone with the police. So, I mean, they had to wait until October. This was March. Catherine had to wait 8 months before she got the phone data from his phone through EE. EE had sent the data across to the Avon and Somerset police force, and they refused to give it to her, and she had to fight them tooth and nail to get that. She eventually got it around about October time, I think it was, and I had a look at it, and immediately did some work on it and managed to get the data for the last ping of where Jack's phone was. Not necessarily with him, but his phone ping. So we got that data, and I was appalled also by the data of the police for that period of time because, and I sent it across to you today, I think,
Yes, you
Marvyn,
did. Yes.
the police force's comments on the whole of March I did was that while the investigation was going on, it was either continued investigation, and this was March last year, 24, and it then had, yes, it's all coded like investigation still ongoing, or it was not in the public interest to divulge. There wasn't any of that case solved, and that sent red flags to me, but I also managed to pick up where that last ping came from, and that was in Granbury Hill, which is in Bristol.
Why
It's a
did
very
the
steep, narrow hill.
Ali? But why did the just before you go into the Granby Hill? Why was the police adamant he went into that water?
God knows. I just don't know. I mean, yes, there's a lot of water around Bristol. You've got the suspension bridge. There is a lot of waterways around there. But he'd come from the other side of the city, and he'd gone up Granbury Hill because it is one way,
Yeah.
which I didn't realise till last week, to be honest. I'd been there before, but many years ago, and I couldn't remember whether it was one way or not, but it is. It's a cobbled, very steep hill, goes up around and back into the city again. I couldn't understand why the police only made one call in Granbury Hill. If it had been me, I'd have been knocking on every door getting statements out of them all. They're very much tenanted places with students, and they've got basements, attics, and, HMOs, and that's houses of multiple occupations.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
you've got all those kind of, it's quite a very, very steep hill. And that was where the party or the get-together was. Apparently, he'd had an altercation with somebody there who pushed him down the stairs.
I have done a video on that, yeah,
Have
in
you?
the past, yeah.
And then nothing. So we've got a timeline, a very good timeline, really.
Why was it, Ali, that the private investigator seemed to find a lot more in? I know they're hiring to do a job, but you would have thought the police would have given us the information that the private investigator had given us at that party, because we would never have known, because the police just dismissed it as nothing.
Yeah, absolutely dismissed it as not of any interest at all. And Catherine got really fed up with them and made an official complaint, actually. And then they hired a private investigator that found out that this altercation had taken place. But I don't know about it. I'm just... Why did they have us going round in circles towards the water? Because actually he wasn't going towards the water. He was heading up the top
That's
of the
correct.
hill.
That's correct. And the other thing, his body was never found. And there was a lot of experts looking at this case and said that his body would have surfaced
Absolutely.
at one time or another, and it never did. And I don't think he was in that water myself. I just, when I looked at the case in Deep of Death, and we've been talking about this case. This was our first case. We was actually talking about the Jack O'Sullivan case. That's how we met. But actually, met through YouTube and messages. But like I said, I do think that there's a little bit more to this case than meets the eye. And I think you're right. It could do with the last ping, which was in Granby Hill.
Yeah, and that was right opposite the substation, which is now derelict. That ping was. And then, of course, you can go further up the hill, obviously. If you go down the hill, that does lead down to the water. But if you go up the hill, which is the direction that Jack was going in, and where the last ping was, and we don't know whether he was with that phone or not, it was right outside that disused substation, which is, I think it's under preservation order now, because it's quite... Bristol has got all these kind of old places which are under preservation order. I think there's something that happened there. The other interesting thing is, and maybe Streamliners can help this out, Marvyn, or you might be able to say.
Okay.
The data from that last ping said that at between 4:30 and 6:44, which was the last activity on that phone, there was 9 minutes of very fast download data, like a movie or something, sent out from it. So
I did hear that. That's absolutely crazy.
I've no idea what that means. If somebody might be able to tell us on that. I mean, I'm not, as you know, I'm not techie at all. So,
Yeah.
But the Apple tag that he had on it, that was in Catherine's name, he bought it, his mum bought it for him, actually was registered to her, and he showed her the night before how it worked. And that was still alive until 6:44 a.m.
It's really, really bizarre. It's the funny thing is, I went over to, is it Michelle After Dark? I think you know her as well, Ali.
Yeah,
And
I do know her very well. Yeah.
I thought she was absolutely brilliant on this case. Even her expertise of looking into missing people and crime as well. At the end of the day, even she said at one of the end of her videos, I just don't know where he's gone and what we're looking at. And she looked at every aspect possible. And I've even put videos even from an Americans experts who looked at this case, and even they're basically saying it's bizarre because there's not a trace. His phone, any bits of his clothing.
Nothing. He had a red iPhone. Well, it was black, but with a red case.
Okay.
He'd got an engraved key ring, I believe. It's all on his poster. I mean, everything, including his camel jumper. Nothing has been found of his whatsoever. The other thing that we've got is the Apple apps was used then, just before 6:45, on Find My Friend's location. So, I mean, I've got this digital stuff. Not that I understand it, but you do, and probably others do as well. Even if the battery, and I did check this, even if the batteries died, it will still place where the last ping was, which is really, really vital.
Very, very vital. Very vital. There's a lot of people who think that he may have got into a car that he thought was a taxi. And there's a high percentage of basically people that have told me that in different conversations. And I said, it is possible, but anything is possible these days. Do you know what I mean? But like I said, is he in the vicinity of the area now? I'm not so sure. Is he alive? I think there's a high percentage that he's dead. I'm sorry to say that, people, but this is what I honestly think. But because it's gone on for so long, do you know what I mean? Basically, and his body was never found. And it always amazed me why other people actually didn't come out, who were friends of Jack, asking for more questions. This is what makes this case a bit suspicious.
Well, one of the Facebook friends did get, well, two of them, got hold of me personally and asked me how I'd managed to get that data. And I said to them quite categorically, well, I've got it, and I'll send it across to you, which I did. And they said, but how did you put it together? I said, I got it from the police logs, which anybody could do.
Yes.
Really, if they know how to do it.
Yeah.
And they weren't happy with that. I don't know why, but they were trying to guide me away from Granbury Hill. And I think that is quite a vital part of the information, really.
I think so too. And I think that it should have been more investigated by the police as a bit of a crime scene, or at least did some more searches in that area. And you're right about that derelict place, which they didn't, which I bet they didn't even search. They probably just went up to the lock gate or something, had a look in, and thought, no, there's nothing in there.
Well, I get on with the police normally very well, and I've never been arrested. I might just put that out there, Marvyn. I've never been arrested. But I think that there's something more to this. Why would the police not release the phone data to Catherine? Why were their own data saying that either still under investigation or not in the public interest? That fools me a bit. Still, 8 months after it was still like that. But I noticed this week, after checking their data again, that last year they'd actually got cases solved within a week. And I'm thinking, well, that month didn't come into it because the data wasn't there for that month. So there's something not quite right about this case. And a couple of surprises this week. I don't know whether you want to enlarge on that, Marvyn.
Well, it's basically Jack's brother lives not too far from Granby Hill, which is new information, which we didn't know through, obviously you getting that information, Ali. How did that come about? Because that was quite bizarre, because I always thought his brother's name is Ben, is that correct?
Yeah, Benjamin, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Benjamin.
that's Benjamin O'Sullivan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Benjamin O'Sullivan. I always thought that he lived near his parents. That was just my thought. I never knew that. He's what about half a mile away from the Granby area.
No, actually, if you go up the top of the hill at Granbury Hill, go round to the corner, he actually lives just behind Granbury Hill.
Is there is
8 minute walk and less than half a mile.
is there a possibility that Jack could have been going to his brother's house and didn't get there?
Well, I thought about it this week, and I thought, what would I do? And I know what I would do. If my brother lived fairly near, I would make my way to him, wouldn't I?
Especially if he's been in a little bit of altercation and he didn't feel safe or he didn't feel well.
Exactly. You'd just go and walk up there, wouldn't you?
Yeah, yeah.
Or ring and ask him to come pick you up.
Do you know the worrying thing as well, which has not really been mentioned as well, is why didn't Jack tell his mum that he'd been in an altercation?
Well, she tried
while they were
ringing
texting.
him several times. She tried texting him and ringing him several times, and he never. The last call he was to another buddy that who managed to get through, and he just said hello, and then the line went dead.
Yeah, but before that, yeah, but
see what time that was.
But earlier on,
3:24.
What I'm saying, but early on in the night, they were messaging each other because he said, "Look, I'm coming home soon." So they were.
Yeah.
When I said when they were in conversation, I'm wondering whether that altercation happened afterwards or before, and he didn't say anything to his mum because he didn't want her to worry.
I think the altercation was afterwards.
I agree.
I mean, if he fell down the stairs and maybe he hit his head and was feeling dizzy, he might have just rung his brother or decided to walk up to his brother. That's what I would do. I mean, people act differently, especially if you've had a head injury. But I think he spoke to his mother earlier, and she just kept ringing because she said she woke up early, knew there was something wrong, went into his bedroom and saw that he hadn't slept there the night.
Yeah.
He was supposed to be back with them. And immediately started texting him and trying to call him, and because was not getting any answers.
Yeah, it's sad, but it's all bizarrely that when someone goes missing and it's a young person, the friends tend to get out there and come together and say, look, and do videos themselves. But it just seemed it's the sleuths, YouTubers, TikTokers, and many other people doing private documentaries on Jack O'Sullivan in sort of basically hoping someone may know something. But it's bizarre. I've never known a case where it's so quiet. Normally in these sort of missing person cases, someone knows something. But like I said, and someone at that party must know what happened to Jack or what could have happened to him.
Yeah, I mean, his debit card has not been, everything's not been touched. No, his debit card, no money was taken out of his account or anything. So they're somewhere, but nothing's been found. And if he'd gone into the water, something would have found, and his body would have been found.
Yeah, and the other thing is, though, but if he'd it's sad to say, but like I said, if he was just sort of dumped somewhere, like in a derelict building, or basically, in an apartment or a place that is concealed.
Yeah, there's lots of basements in those properties. It's very, very old part of Bristol.
Yeah, that's what I said. Concealed, uh, you know, and that's probably and everything's with him, and someone's hid him. That's a massive possibility. It's not. It sounds like to me, we're not blaming the police, but I just think that the searches could have been more thorough.
Well, I had a message from Vanished Voices UK, and they're feeling the same thing. So I don't think it's just us thinking that something should have happened by now. The Facebook page, all of that has not been put back up.
Yeah, which is bizarre.
Which is bizarre. The only thing I could find yesterday was the Twitter account of Catherine. There was a bit on there, but apart from that, it was only what I'd saved, the films that I sent you over. It's just not adding up at all.
No, no. I mean, we both think there's a little bit more to this than meets the eye. But at the end of the day, we've just got to do some more digging and further investigations into, obviously a few people we're looking into. But like I said, it's very, very bizarre. And like I said, there's that saying, Ali, sometimes someone knows something very, very close to home.
Yeah, well, what's our saying? What's my saying that I've always said?
Follow the money.
Exactly. I think that does play a part in it. I might be wrong, but I'm beginning to think there's something more to this than meets the eye.
That's a very, very interesting point. Do you think he's alive or do you think he's dead, Ali? Be honest. I think I've obviously put my, it's sad to say, but I don't think Jack is with us anymore.
Well, I would have agreed with you earlier, but I don't know so much now. I would hope he is alive.
Yeah, of course.
Even if he's changed his name.
That's interesting. I think we're going to have to do, like I said, another part on this one. Obviously, more information has come in, but we know that Granby Hill is key to, I think, Jack disappearing.
Absolutely. I'm pretty certain of it now, to be honest with you. I'm not gonna give up the day job anyway. I'll still keep my nighttime job on.
Oh, that's lovely. That's.
You know what it is, do you?
No, we don't. Tell me.
Pole dancing.
Oh my God! Enlighten me.
No, I shall keep on with this because it is my area, and I'm determined to get to the bottom of it for everybody's sake. I don't know quite what's been going on up there. I went to UE and I used to actually give lectures at UE, and of course that's in the area, so maybe I will ask some of those students up there if they can do some digging around for us.
I'm just going to leave you with this because we've been going for 20 odd minutes, Ali, and I know you've had a late night getting all this information together and on other cases as well, which we really thank you a lot. So I'm going to make sure you get your beauty sleep. What is the your sort of points on the friends? Do you think one of them knows more, or do you think there's someone in the Facebook group that knows information but is probably afraid that they don't want the police to be involved because there'd be questions and their name could be put out there? You know how people think they panic, don't they?
Yeah, I think there's 4 people that I found today that know more.
Wow. Yeah.
I have got names. 2 of them were the ones that asked me for the data. I think we need to speak to those people again. I've got their email, so I'll speak to you about it, but I think it's a good idea to ask them what else they know.
Yeah. And there is a lot of, suspicion in this case, still streamliners. And like I said, we are we don't want to really give this case up. This is very, very important to me, and it's also even more important to Ali because she knows the area as well. But I agree with Ali. I don't think everybody is really telling us the truth that are involved
No,
in
I
this
don't.
case. We're not accusing anybody, but like I said, I do think there's a little bit more to me.
There could have
Yeah,
been an accident, couldn't there?
yeah,
It was very, very cold with frost on the ground. I mean, we're talking early hours of the morning. That could have been, had a part to play.
and he was in a rush to get back to catch a taxi as well.
And maybe if the taxi didn't come, he phoned his brother.
Mm.
And was he walking up to see his brother? I mean, that would be what I would do. And I was amazed when I found his brother was so close to Granby Hill. That really amazed me, to be honest.
Yeah, and it's not really been put. I've never heard anyone else mention that, to be honest, any other sleuths, and I've watched a lot of the Jack O'Sullivan basically sleuths and TikTokers talking about the case.
Well, there's another, I believe some dogs were used, scent dogs were used near Flaxbourton, which is where Catherine and Alan live, which is the village in Somerset, just outside Bristol. And they did react there. So I have said to you before, when we get time, and that's always a big problem,
Yeah.
time, we could go up there and I could take my two dogs and see what they can sniff out. But, it might be a waste of time. I don't know. But I think Catherine does need mental peace from this.
Of course.
Because you just want to know, don't you?
And
Any mum would want to know what happened properly.
Yeah, and I do feel really sorry for the family, and I'm worried that she's not come out and at least said something in an article or the BBC or the ITV. She hasn't come out on anywhere. It's been very, very quiet. At the end of the day, maybe they're just resting after obviously after a year of March just gone, of Jack going missing. But like I said, it's a bizarre case because, like I said, there's no leads or nothing of his been found, which is very, very worrying.
No, it isn't. I mean, I do know Benjamin goes down through the city every day looking for him because he's been on camera, stating that he goes down by the swing bridge and that, which isn't that far away from there.
That's right.
And Catherine did go and unearth some more CCTV film and doorbell cams, which the police hadn't found. So she's got all that, but I don't know. I think something happened on Granbury Hill. That's my inclination at the moment.
Yeah, and he could have been trying to basically get to his brothers. We don't know, but like I said, something happened. I think when he left that party, and like I said, I think his friends do know a little bit more. But look, we are going to leave it there, people. And like I said, if we do get any more information, basically we'll definitely put it out there and do a follow-up to this video as information comes in, and hopefully we find Jack. Do you know what I mean? I think it's vitally important that this we put this case out there again, just to jog people's memories.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of these Facebook friends of theirs said the logs cannot be trusted. Well, the logs can be trusted. So I don't know why they would say things like that when, and this was just a week after he went missing. So I really don't know why they're saying these things. Dear, I don't know. It's difficult. Any mum or any part of a family that doesn't know where their loved one is, it would just eat away at you.
Of course. Yeah, of course. And maybe this is why she needs the break, and plus sort of all the sometimes rubbish coming on Facebook, what may have happened to him, because you're looking at leads and there's sometimes horrible people who play pranks and stuff like that, which is just horrible, and really what the family don't need.
Some people have got a very sick kind of mentality.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
it's not not good, and it doesn't do anybody. You can't go forward with anything if you've got those kind of people on board. You
Yeah.
just can't.
Yeah, I agree. Right, thank you very much, Ali, for your time.
That's all right. I've got to get pole dancing in a minute. Otherwise, I won't earn any money this week, will I?
Good luck, sweetheart.
Okay.
Thank you.
Everybody have a nice evening, and at least the weather's all right at the moment.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. You take care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.